Good morning everybody. I'm ex-Human Race and my channel is Garage Gym Essentials. I'm going to talk today about an exercise and a piece of equipment called a hyperextension. What does the hyperextension do? Well, if it's done correctly, and to be quite honest most people don't, if you use it correctly it works the muscles in your lower back and it works the muscles of your hamstrings and also most but not all the glute muscles. Now, really quick anatomy, I don't want to go into any detail. This part of your hip here, the top of your hip, is called the iliac crest. And fastening into the iliac crest is something called the thoracolumbar fascia. Now, into the thoracolumbar fascia goes 6 muscles, 3 pairs, so 3 on each side. The muscle closest to the spine is the splenius, it's the most superficial. And then next to that is the longus thoracis. And then next to that is a muscle called the ilicostasis lumbarum, which goes from the hip to the ribs, because hence the word costal and the lumbar. Now these muscles, these 3 muscles on either side, so 6 muscles in total, so 3 pairs, they make up a group of muscles that people who failed anatomy call the erector spinae group. And what the erector spinae group does, if you imagine bending over like this, these are the muscles that pull you upright. That's what they do. Now that thoracolumbar fascia, that area has a really thin blood supply. So a lot of people get injuries in there. Quite often the injuries are overuse, in other words just using it too much, or imbalances, or they've got incredibly tight hamstring group, or quite often they'll hurt the glute medius, and then the glute medius will refer pain into the lower back. Now moving lateral, moving to the outside from the erector spinae group, you've got a muscle called the quadratus lumbarum. Now a lot of people who failed anatomy simply call it the QL. Now under there you've got, under the erector spinae group, you've got the multifidi, and then underneath you that you've got the rotators, and then very, very deep, the deepest of the back muscles is the psoas. And you get people who failed anatomy and they call it the iliac psoas. But no, it's not, they're 2 separate muscles. The iliacus is a different muscle to the psoas. And the psoas and the iliacus, they're deep flexors for the front there. And the weaker flexors is the longest muscle in the body, which is the sartorius, and then you've got the rectus femoris, which just basically means along the femur. So when you're doing hyperextensions, what you're trying to exercise is, number 1, these muscles in your back that run along your spine, and these are the erector spinae group. Number 2, you're exercising the hamstrings, so it's a really good warm-up. And number 3, you're working the glutes a little bit, but you're not working all of the glutes. This is a really good exercise to prevent back injuries and to strengthen that group of muscles, and it's a really good warm-up for squats. Don't do good doing hundreds of sets of them. Now my personal record is 44 repetitions, so that's my personal record. Now when I was when I was 19, 18, I could get a pair of 45s, put them on my chest and start doing lots and lots of, hyperextensions. Can't quite do that now, I'm not 19 anymore, I'm in my 50s. Now, this piece of equipment, I paid $50 for it. I bought it used and it came from a physical therapy office. So 50 bucks, I only use it as a warm-up. Personal record with it is 44, I'm going to do it in a minute just to show you how to do a few. Probably do about 30 of them, maybe a few more. It's adjustable here at the back. Now it's got a gap here in the middle, and that's for us guys because we don't want pressure on our wedding tackle. We really don't. Common mistakes I see is people not going over far enough, and also people using momentum. A really common mistake I see, especially amongst guys, they'll be too far back. These pads should be on your thighs, they should be on your quadriceps, not so much on your hips and definitely not on your lower abdominals. These really should be on your thighs. So a lot of guys are too far back, and the reason they go too far back is it's easier, so it's the easier way to do it. I want to talk about the diagonal. There's a lot of gyms have a 45-degree diagonal hyperextension. I personally think the vertical works a lot better. I think it's more efficient, I think it's more effective, and strangely enough I think you're going to have less injuries. Now, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get on here. I'm going to put some weight on the front, bend forward, and then what I'm going to do is get on here, bring forward, get as far forward as I can, So now those pads are actually on my quadriceps, they're not on my hips. Go take a breath, going to bend right over, come up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 21, Okay, that was 40. Record is 44. Felt that in the hamstrings, but mostly in the lower back. Quite a bit on the left hand side. So you would use that to strengthen the muscles in your lower back, your hamstrings, and it's a good warm up. So what I would normally do now is I would go and do squats. Warmed up that area, feel safe. Not going to do that now. I'm going to squat this afternoon. Carson won't be here to take that video. So if you stop the video now please, Mr. Carson.